Have you ever played a game where you find yourself questioning whether or not you can trust anything? Notice how I didn't say anyone. I said anything. You can't trust not only the people around you, but also the environment, the world at large, your own perception, even the television that you may or may not be watching this video on. This is the question that Eternal Darkness: Sanity's Requiem posed back in 2002. I must admit, I'm not a huge fan of horror games. The thought of having to sit in a dark room while there's a monster actively searching for me so that it can turn me into a high school biology project makes me want to immediately proceed to the nearest exit, which can involve either pressing Alt F4 or sometimes the power button on my computer. Which is why nothing short of putting a gun to my head can persuade me to play Five Nights at Freddy's. Actually, I think my issue is less with horror games and more to do with the fact that I really don't like jump scares. But anyways, while I had never played Eternal Darkness myself, I have heard of it numerous times before, and my curiosity, combined with the fact that I've watched playthroughs by both Pro Jared and Mint Phantom, got the better of me. So... Please note that this video will contain spoilers! Also, most of my footage was taken from my streams, so you're going to see this ugly rat in the corner.
Whether by fate or misfortune, my family has crossed their path, and they didn't take kindly to it.
Our story begins with Alexandria Roivas waking up at 3:33 in the morning after dreaming about being a badass, blasting zombies with a bottomless clip double barrel. The caller, Inspector Legras, informed us that Alex's grandfather, Edward Roivas, has been murdered. So we pack our bags and make our way to the Roivas family manor on Rhode Island. Wait, his name is Legras? Have I heard that name before? Ah, yes, I have. Alright, continue.
Can we get this over with, please?
Of course. This way. But I must warn you, it's not a pleasant sight.
Not much to see, you say. Oh, you call that not much to see? Oh. Oh no! Despite the horror of having to see the mangled remains of her grandfather, Alex is determined to figure out just what the hell happened here. An objective that is severely complicated by the fact that there is seemingly no evidence to go off of, and the police are completely baffled. So the only thing we can do is search the mansion for something. Any sort of clue that could shed some light onto what the hell is going on. After bumbling around for a bit, we eventually discovered the secret tunnel leading into a hidden study, where we found this old book. Except, this is no ordinary book. This is
the Tome of Eternal Darkness!
A book which holds forbidden knowledge and tells a story that spans over 2,000 years up to the present day. And that story starts right here, in the desert of ancient Persia. The scene opens with a Roman general speaking to his soldiers in Latin.
Pugna huis, dia sit modo prima multarum, si inceptum conficiamus.
But then partway through this guy's sentence, the game decides that speaking in Latin in a game where everyone else speaks anglais is stupid, so it switches audio tracks.
Quam primum, Centurio Augustus. I would like to compliment you once more on your battle tactics.
Anyways, this is Pius Augustus. He is a Roman soldier searching for some unspecified artifact. For the rest of this video, I will refer to him as Augustus Gloop, for no other reason beyond I think it's funny. To those of you who expected me to take this game seriously, I am sorry to have disappointed you. Augustus Gloop begins hearing the voices, which convinced him to step into the magic circle, resulting in him being instantly killed. Now you perish. Into the chocolate river. No, just kidding, here you are. With no choice but to press forward, we explored the ancient ruins, fought undead husks, did some light puzzle solving, the kind of stuff that you expect from your average Zelda dungeon now that I think about it. Before I forget, this game has a pretty cool dismemberment system, which lets you target and chop off an enemy's arms to disable their attack, or you can cut off their head. This does not outright kill them, usually, but it does cause them to flail around blindly at the air in front of them, which is hilarious to watch. The game teaches you about this mechanic by forcing you to dismember this statue that looks suspiciously like you. Eventually, we arrived at this room, decorated with 3 mysterious artifacts. If you're familiar with Eternal Darkness, you probably already know that this is one of, if not the most important room in the game. Each of these artifacts are tied to one of the 3 gods. Chiturga, Ulyath, and Zelatath. Augustus Gloop must choose one to claim for himself. I decided to pick up the blue jellyfish, shaped like a delicate dome. A pale blue statuette floats gracefully above the pedestal. Should Augustus Gloop claim this artifact? Careful, Augustus Gloop. You don't want to do something you regret. He's doing something he regrets! Oh no, he's turned blue! That's his attack! And so, Augustus Gloop became a lich. The end. Chapter 2 takes place 1,176 years after the events of Chapter 1. This is Elia. He has come to this temple, I assume because she was looking for some place where she could read
The Tome of Eternal Darkness!
in peace. You might be wondering, how on earth did she come across this mystical volume? I don't know. As she reads the tale of how the Archlich Augustus Gloop imprisoned this ancient and disgusting deity, whose name is Mantarok in case you're wondering, Elia wished that she had a bit more excitement in her own life. Little did she realize her wish was about to come true, as she found herself trapped inside the temple with no choice but to find another way out. Which of course means we have to face puzzles, devious traps, and monsters. Elia may be carrying a sword, but she's not a soldier. Whilst Augustus Gloop was an absolutely fearless Giga Chad that could look the horrors dead in the eye and walk away unfazed, Elia is basically just a normal person. And normal people tend not to do well when they are faced with the horrors. This is the part where we're introduced to the sanity system. If you've heard anything about Eternal Darkness, you probably know about the sanity system. How it works is that when an enemy spots you, you lose a bit of sanity. As it depletes further, you'll start experiencing hallucinations, which can get really freaky. The camera will tilt at a Dutch angle, the walls might start bleeding, you'll start hearing creepy whispers, certain aspects of the environment will change entirely. And I'm only scratching the surface here. There's much crazier stuff that can happen later on as your character loses their grasp on reality. The only way to recover sanity is by performing a finishing move, ensuring that the monster you were fighting has died by your own hands. Is that clear? Good. Now, let me introduce you to the Blue Man Group. I couldn't attack them with my sword because I accidentally broke it a few seconds ago, so I instead had to rely on the poison dart gun that I had just found. Aside from the fact that you can't really decapitate people with poison darts, this proved to be surprisingly effective. But there was one small problem. If a member of the Blue Man Group takes too much damage, they tend to, explode. That's all fine and dandy, except because I could not perform a finishing move on them, I can't get my sanity back, which means I have no choice but to embrace my descent into madness. Eventually, I had delved far enough into the temple to realize that this was no ordinary temple. This was the tomb of the corpse god Mantarok. Here, we get a surprise visit from Augustus Gloop, who warned us to either GTFO or die. Bro, what do you think I'm trying to do? Throw myself into the Great Maw? Well, before I could leave, I suddenly got struck by lightning, and this withered old priest appeared and said, "Little girl, I have a gift for you." Can I say no thank you? I'm afraid you don't have a choice. Unless you want Mantarok to devour you like he did those two other guys. You're not seriously considering this, are you? I mean, I am kind of into it. Oh, gross. I'm definitely not giving you the choice now. Here, this is the heart of Mantarok. Whatever you do, do not let it fall into the hands of Augustus Gloop, else your world shall be doomed. Can you at least tell me where the exit is? No. Alright, cool. Thanks, stranger. Now with our second heart installed, we shall proceed to the next room, only to find out that it's a dead end. Worse, guess who decided to show up at the worst possible time? Augustus Gloop demanded that Elia reveal to him the heart of Mantarok. When she refused to speak, he saw the tears in her eyes, and that image pulled at what little remaining shreds of humanity he had left. He realized that, despite the horrors that this girl has witnessed, she might truly be innocent, completely unaware of the dark conspiracy he has been carefully organizing. Clearly, she was not meant to have any involvement in these events. and to keep her any longer would be nothing short of meaningless torture. And so, he decided to show her a gesture of mercy by killing her on the spot. The end! In the year 814, a member of the Illuminati hands Anthony a message, insisting that it must be delivered to Charlemagne the Frank, and that its contents are for His Majesty's eyes only. Suspicious, Anthony decides to read the message himself, only to discover that it is not, in fact, a message, but a curse!
Oh no, you fool! You looked at it!
Loyal to the crown, Anthony realizes that Charlemagne may be in grave danger, and races to the local cathedral to warn him. Unfortunately, Charlemagne is locked in the bishop's office for some reason, so we need to go find the bishop so that he can unlock the door for us. This chapter is actually pretty interesting because...
Wow. Oh, we've entered the Nightmare Realm. Oops, wrong turn. Oh, I do enjoy the screams. Oh, the screams. The screams! Cradled in what appears to be a leathery hand lies a mysterious book. It is bound in human skin and intricately decorated with shrunken bones. It beckons and yearns to be possessed. Okay. Should Anthony claim?
The Tome of Eternal Darkness!
Yes! Please stop the screams! Oh. Must have been a bad trip or something. I don't know.
As I was saying, this chapter is actually pretty interesting because this is when we get introduced to magic. No, not that kind of magic. Magic with a K.
Wait, was that Trazen the Infinite?
As you progress through the game, you'll gradually collect runes, which can be combined to form various incantations that will allow you to tap into the power of the gods in order to cast spells. The first 3 runes you'll find in this chapter will allow you to cast the enchantment spell, which can not only enhance your weapons, but also repair broken items, which is necessary to solve a few puzzles. Towards the end of the catacombs, we encounter the bishop, who was apparently evil, so I had to kill him. Now, I have good news and bad news. The good news is that I now have the bishop's key. The bad news, you remember that curse that Anthony got that was meant for Charlemagne? Yeah, well, it's been getting worse and worse and worse as the level goes on. I'm concerned that we might not reach Charlemagne before we turn into dust, but I'm more worried that he'll mistake us for a monster and try to kill us out of sight.
What? Oh. Oh, the blue beast beckons. Hi.
Well, Flapjacks, I gotta deal with this guy first. Now, the blue beast may be very strong and terrifying, especially if you're forced to rely on melee weapons like I am. Not to mention the fact that his attacks drain your mana because he is blue. But all you need to do is cut all 3 of his heads off, and then he crumbles like a house of cards. Finally, we can unlock the bishop's office and speak with Charlemagne. Except, we were too late. Charlemagne the Frank has already been executed at the hands of the Illuminati, and Anthony finally succumbs to the curse as he is transformed into little more than a walking corpse. And then the crystalline xenomorph appeared.
Oh no!
The end. My name is Kareem. I am a Persian nobleman that seeks the hand of this lady, but she will only acknowledge my love for her if I seek out a mysterious artifact. Now here I have 2 options. Option 1, I can tell this lady to kick rocks, and then I can go find another woman to simp over. Or option 2. So here I am out in the desert, wandering around aimlessly, until I discovered...
The voices. Don't go into the magic circle. Don't heed the voices. He's going into the magic circle. He's heeding the voices. All this for a girl.
Now, here I am in the very ruins that Augustus Gloop once found himself in. By the way, I found the
Tome of Eternal Darkness!
almost immediately. You know how members of the Blue Man Group like to explode like creepers? Well, I figured out that you can chop their heads off to prevent them from exploding, which makes fighting them much less terrifying. I got stuck on this puzzle for embarrassingly long because I thought I needed to press all these buttons on the floor in order to dispel this barrier. The issue was there were 3 buttons, and with the combined efforts of me and this statue I found, I could only press 2 of them. So I was stumped for a little bit. Turns out, in order to get rid of this barrier, all I needed to do was walk into it.
Oh, I just walk into the barrier. Never mind.
Deep within the ruins, I faced many horrors. And let's just say that I nearly lost my head. Then I killed a red giant, and I learned how to cast the recover spell, meaning I can finally heal myself without having to rely on this old talisman that I've been carrying around. Later I found the Ramdao, which is basically a big-ass sword that is really good at cleaving through crowds of zombies. I had a lot of fun with this weapon, I am not going to lie. One of the zombies dropped the rune of Ulya, which is great because I needed to turn my sword blue so that I could stick it into this door and unlock it as if I had a key. I am not sure who came up with the idea of locking your door so that it can only be opened with a certain color sword, but whatever. Then my life started falling apart, quite literally. But hey, at least I found this ruby effigy. Finally, after fighting off hordes of undead, plus another blue beast that almost killed me, I found the Crab Claw.
The Crab Claw!
But before I could even pick it up, I was met with the ghost of that girl I was trying to woo in the first place. Turns out, while I was gone, she married a nobleman, only to be murdered by the mistress. Shame on her, I say. Now, as a spirit, she is destined to watch over the very artifact that she had once sought after. And she has requested that I, Karim, join her in this sacred duty.
Without your sacrifice, the world will fall into eternal darkness.
She's in the line!
Now here, I have 2 options. Option 1, I can tell this harlot to kick rocks, return to civilization, and put this whole mess behind me. Or option 2.
Oh. You fool! What have you done? And he's dead. The end.
Karim, you are an absolutely brain-dead simp. I, Maximilian Roivas, have recently inherited this estate from my father, who had tragically passed away a mere 2 weeks ago. Since I am an old man with little else to do besides ponder my studies and pursue my interest in the culinary arts, this is a plot detail that I completely made up, I decided that I should look into the dark secrets that are concealed within this old property. My first clue lay within
The Tome of Eternal Darkness!
a mysterious volume that has found its way into my possession. I have kept it safe in my hidden study, but I have had yet to peruse its contents, until but a few minutes ago. The moment I met eyes with the first page, images of numerous horrific scenes flooded my mind. Somehow I understood these to be the memories of those many who upheld this book in the past. Their ambitions, their magic, their terrible fates. Their knowledge was now mine to bear. But as I was still struggling to piece together this wellspring of new information, I was accosted by a new vision that made my skin crawl. Some horrific beast has appeared in my foyer, and my servants are being accosted by nightmarish creatures I can hardly describe. It now falls upon me to fend off these eldritch invaders, uncover their wretched hive, and perhaps find inspiration for a new kind of delicacy. What's special about this chapter is that it teaches you about the rock, paper, scissors relationship between each of the ancients, not including Manchvarok. This is something that was kind of hinted at before, but now not only is it more overt, you're kind of required to learn about it in order to solve a few puzzles. And it'll make fighting enemies a much smoother experience, especially once you have the runes for all 3 gods. Put simply, Taturga eats Zelatath, Zelatath mind breaks Ulyath, and Ulyath casts Lightning Bolt to disintegrate Taturga. If you didn't quite catch that, don't worry, just take a look at this chart and it'll all make sense. Probably. What sucks about this chapter is that I get to use flintlock pistols. You might think, why is that bad? Aren't flintlock pistols ranged weapons allowing you to fend off the giants without getting too close to them? Well, yes. But the thing about flintlocks is that they take forever to reload. You'll have to run to another zip code to ensure that you have enough time to fully reload before the slow-moving giants catch up to you. Whatever, they still do the job, I guess. Another nice detail is that the first time you defeat each monster as Maximilian, he'll perform an autopsy of the creature, allowing you to learn more about them. You know, their strengths, their abilities, their weaknesses, their flavor, how best to prepare them. Why am I rewriting Maximilian to be more like Louis? Though I beheaded a few body-jacking xenomorphs, shot the Jolly Green Giant of the Sepia dimension, and I ran around on the ceiling for a bit. Don't ask how I got up there, I have no clue. Soon I found a hidden door that led into the basement, where I found a well, at the bottom of which was an entire goddamn city. Just there, at the bottom of the well, right beneath our feet. Absolutely nothing worth freaking out about. No, sir! Approaching the city gates, I was stopped by the city guard, which just so happens to be a giant shrimp.
There's a shrimp behind us.
As I studied the Guardian's bullet-ridden corpse, two thoughts came to my mind. First, the city is more than likely full of creatures just as, if not more abhorrent than the one before me. If I were to raise this city to ash, I would need to rally several dozen men, if not an entire army. My second thought was, I could really go for some shrimp fried rice right now. I wonder... Sometime later, I developed a new recipe using the flesh of that creature I had slain. Unfortunately, the world was not ready for my contributions to culinary science, as my dish received many harsh critiques such as, "This dish looks inedible," and "Are you sure that this meat is supposed to be blue?" One woman in particular said something along the line of, "Oh my god, my husband's bowels just exploded," and threw her plate back at my face. Rude. Just so you don't want it. Eventually, the authorities decided that I needed to be convicted into an insane asylum in order to prevent me from practicing the culinary arts any further. That, and also I may have murdered a bunch of my own servants in cold blood because I suspected that they may have been compromised by the xenomorphs, but let's not sweat the details. Point is, I failed to actually stop Ulias' minions. I spent the remainder of my days rotting in a cell, and that hive city I found at the bottom of the well is still there. At the bottom of the well.
May the rats eat your eyes!
The end! Oh, hi! Don't ask what's going on behind me, you don't need to know. Making this video is taking longer than I had anticipated, probably because I spend half of every other day streaming games like... So in the interest of maintaining a semi-consistent upload schedule, I decided to split it into 2 parts. If all goes well, I'll hopefully have part 2 up by December 8th. Maybe a bit later. So be sure to stay tuned. I'm just gonna take care of this thing that I told you not to acknowledge. Until then! You can leave now.